Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishna Nedarim, Perek Zayin, Mishnah Aleph, Chapter 7, Mishnah 1. And the Mishnahs continue with different examples of terms, words that are used in a neder, and what do they include, what do they not include. So, Hanoider min hayarak. A person makes a neder that prohibits him from yarak. Yarak means vegetables. That's the word that he used. Mutter badaluin. He's allowed to eat gourds. And that's because people use the term vegetables only to refer to vegetables that are eaten raw, whereas gourds are edible only when cooked. Okay, so right now the Gemara is saying, if you use the word yarak, vegetables, that means something that can be eaten raw. Bluin is probably is technically a vegetable, but people will not call it vegetable, won't use that word vegetable for it, because vegetable means something you can eat raw, while a gourd cannot be eaten raw. Rabbi Akiva Oyser. Rabbi Akiva, though, forbids eating gourds because he holds that the word vegetables includes a gourd also. Okay, so right now, the Gemara seems to be saying, the Mishnah rather, person makes a vow, makes a neder from yarak. The first opinion says, does not include gluin, does not include gourds. Rabbi Akiva says, no, it does. According to his opinion, when people say the word vegetables, they include a gourd also. So here in the bottom, in the notes, they bring from the Gemara an interesting point, and that is that essentially, you have to kind of add a few words to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says he made a neder from yarak. If that's all he said in his actual words was that he's forbidding yarak, then even Rabbi Akiva would agree that a gourd is not included. However, the case of the Mishnah is where a person said that he makes a neder, he forbids on himself vegetables that are cooked in a pot. Didn't just say the word yarak, vegetables. He said yarak, vegetables that are cooked in a pot. So Rabbi Akiva rules that by adding that are cooked in a pot, the person includes gourds, which are not edible until they are cooked. Meaning once he added the words cooked in a pot, okay, gourds fits into that. And therefore, Rabbi Akiva says, in that case, the gourd becomes forbidden because of the neder. According to the Chachamim, however, gourds are permitted even in this case, because they hold that gourds are never called vegetables. Even if you say vegetables that are cooked in a pot, which a gourd is, people do not use the word vegetable for a gourd in any circumstance. Okay, so right now we have the Mishnah. We're establishing the Mishnah is talking about the person made a neder from vegetables, more specific, vegetables that are cooked in a pot. And we have an argument between the Tanakam and the first opinion of Rabbi Akiva as to whether, under those circumstances, the word vegetable would include a gourd or not. So now the Gemara continues with this argument. Amru lai Rabbi Akiva. They, meaning the sages, which is the first opinion. The anonymous opinion is typically the majority opinion. So, Amru lai Rabbi Akiva, they said to Rabbi Akiva, and they want to prove that they're correct, that a person would never use the word yerek to include a gourd. Imagine the following scenario. A person says to his agent, he sends somebody out, Kach li yerek, buy from me vegetables. Okay? Would he say, and he would say, I found only gourds. Add a few words, shall I buy them for you? Since he would not simply buy the gourds that are available, but would come back to get the approval of the sender, it's evident that vegetables do not include gourds, meaning they're trying to make the following proof, the Chachamim. Imagine a scenario. A guy tells someone, go out and buy me vegetables. Okay? What does the guy find in the marketplace? The only thing that's on sale? Gourds. So the guy comes back, so the guy would come back, and he would say to the agent would come back and say, I only found gourds. Should I buy them for you? That would be the typical case. The Gemara, their argument is saying, look, if this is were to happen, this is what would happen. But if a gourd is a vegetable, then what are you coming back for? He said, buy me vegetables. Vegetable means any vegetable. So why did he even bother to come back and ask, should I buy the gourds? Gourd's a vegetable. The answer is that when a person uses the word yarik vegetable, they don't mean a gourd. And therefore, it would make sense for the person to come back and ask, should he buy it? You asked me for vegetables, but there are no vegetables, there are only gourds. So they're trying to prove from that hypothetical, right, that you see, you agree in such a case, this is what would happen. So you agree that you should, therefore, that's an argument to say that when a person says yarek, vegetables, they don't include a gourd. So Amar Lahem, Rabbi Kiva said back to them, Keina Davar. Yeah, you're right. Keina Davar. That means it is true. The messenger would indeed return to get the sender's approval to buy the gourds. I agree with that. I agree that he would come back and ask permission to buy it. But you're trying to say that that's a proof that because of that, you see a gourd is not a vegetable. And I'm going to tell you that itself is a proof that it is a vegetable. Why? Because he says like this, let's say the messenger found only legumes, meaning he sent him to buy vegetables, and all he found was legumes. All he found was beans, okay? Dry beans and peas, they say here. Would he come back and say to the founder, I only found legumes, should I buy them? He certainly wouldn't, because when you say vegetables, you know that you don't mean legumes. Meaning if something is not included in the vegetables, you're not going to come back and ask, should I buy them? Because it should be obvious that you don't want them to buy it, because when you say yerek, you don't include legumes. Okay, but everybody's agreeing that if, let's say, the only thing he found were gourds, that the agent would come back and say, but I found gourds, should I buy them? What's the difference between gourds and legumes? You're telling me that if he only finds legumes, he's not going to bother coming back to ask. But he would come back to ask about legumes, about gourds. Why? What's the difference? Why would you agree? You agree that if he found legumes, he'd never come back. But if he has gourds, he would come back. Why? The answer is because, guess what? Gourds could be included in vegetables. And that's why he comes back to ask, well, maybe you want this. So yes, it's not simple. If all you say is the word vegetables in a neder, we understand you're not including the gourds. But we do find circumstances that the word vegetable could include a gourd. And here's a scenario. Is there a scenario where the word vegetable could include a gourd? And only because of that is he coming back to ask. That's what he means when he says, Elashadluin b'chlal yerek. The gourds are included in vegetable. The kitnias ain't b'chlal yerek, while legumes are not. So he took this same case and he turned it on them and he said, this is a proof to me. Because you agree that when you send a guy for vegetables and all he finds is legumes, he won't even bother coming back to ask, should I buy it? But if he finds the luin, if he finds gourds, he will come back to ask. Why is that? The answer is because vegetables could include gourds. And therefore, we say that in the case of a neder, interestingly, again, it's kind of hard to exactly understand all the different nuances, but at the end of the day, Rabbi Kiva agrees if in the neder all he says is yarek, vegetables, gourds not included. But we're talking about that he said vegetables have to be cooked in a pot. Then he says the gourd is included in the word vegetable. And his proof for that is, or somewhat of a proof is the fact that we do find a circumstance, everybody agrees on a certain kind of hypothetical circumstance, that the gourd would be included in the vegetable, and therefore to him that's a proof to say that in the case of the neder where the person says the vegetable is cooked in a pot, that would include a gourd, but the Chachamim disagree. The aser b'pal hamitzri lach umuter b'yavesh. Here, this last part of the Mishnah, everybody agrees that if you said yarek, that included in yarek would be what they call here pula mitzri lach, which they translate as Egyptian beans that are moist, meaning they're fresh, but the ones that are dried would not be. Because again, when people say the word vegetables, they mean to include the moist Egyptian beans, but not the dried ones. And this is everybody agrees. No one's arguing on this. The Mishnah's last part is everybody agrees that when you make a neder about a vegetable, and even if we say a vegetable that's cooked in a pot, the moist, pula mitzri, the moist or the fresh Egyptian bean would be included. People do include that when they say vegetable, while the dry ones, they do not. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.